Welcome back to the Crypto World channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now it is happening. Bitcoin is rejecting from this critical level of resistance after just liquidating hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin trades, as the price of Bitcoin is still repeating history in the short term, while Ethereum is also doing the same thing in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the 4-day Bitcoin chart, and over the last 1 day, nothing has really changed on this chart. So moving straight to the 2-day time frame, at least for now, once again, we're still technically within more of a bearish trend as of right now, forming lower highs and lower lows on this chart right here. But this is also forming a descending broadening wedge pattern. And so we also have support and resistance to pay attention to on this chart. First of all, we have this line of support sitting just underneath 54,000, sitting closer towards around 53,500 now. And we have this line of resistance sitting at around 68 to 69,000. And once again, as I've been saying recently here on the channel, even during this bearish trend, we can see the occasional bullish relief or pump back to the upside here and there, even during a bearish trend. And with that being said, taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, of course, as of right now, the RSI on the daily time frame is at relatively neutral levels because we already saw a major reset over the last half a week to 1 week now. And so technically speaking, this now means we have more room again to the downside here in the RSI compared to around 1 week ago, because obviously about a week ago, the RSI on the daily time frame was oversold, telling us that we have very limited room to the downside. We're kind of approaching the downside limit just in the short term. And so once again, we reset the RSI, which was expected here over the last 1 week or so. But now that we've reset the RSI, we have some more room to the downside. So just keep that in mind. We saw something kind of similar back here, back near the end of June and early July as well. And so that's why we cannot rely on this signal by itself to actually confirm the actual bottom and confirm a new bullish trend reversal, because there's been times where we've seen basically a slight relief from the bearish trend in the short term after an oversold signal, but not necessarily a bullish trend reversal. And so once again, the RSI at the moment is relatively neutral. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart right here, looking at some support and resistance levels, obviously over the last couple of days here, we've actually played out a bit more of a rejection from this level of resistance based on this volume profile indicator, which I have mentioned here on the channel just recently, sitting at roughly around 63,000. And so obviously, at least for now, 63k is still a strong level of resistance to pay attention to. And as of right now, we've actually just seen a break back below this area on the chart, which for a couple of days here was holding as a bit of short-term support, sitting in between around 60,000 to 61,000. But we've now just seen a daily candle close back below around $60,000. And so technically speaking, this now means that 60 to 61,000 should now be acting as a bit of short-term resistance again, in case we see another short-term bounce of some sort. And as for the next support to pay attention to the downside, we do have a bit of support at around 57,500 based on this volume profile indicator right here. But other than that, we have this previous significant area of support in between around 56 to 57,000. And if we were to see a confirmed break back below around 56,000, then in that case, we have this significant area of support down here based on the volume profile indicator sitting in between around 51 to 53,000. And if we were to see a confirmed breakout back above around 63,000, we also have this strong area of resistance right here in between around 67,000 to 68.3k. And we can only really start talking about a major bullish trend again here on the larger time frames and talking about new all-time highs and things like that once we actually see a confirmed breakout back above this resistance and ideally back above this previous high, which are both sitting at roughly around 69,000 give or take. And so obviously, while the price is below this resistance, technically speaking, we're forming lower highs in the price and also lower lows, at least for now, which is technically what a bearish trend is. But if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, obviously we're still seeing very similar price action at the moment compared to what we saw near the bottom of the March 2020 crash. And obviously I've been talking about this basically every day over the last 1 week or so, since all the way back down here. I've been mentioning we have a lot of similarities right now compared to what we saw back here. And so due to that, of course, I shared here on the channel around half a week ago, give or take, that I was entering a long position with that slight little pullback right here. I used that as an entry to enter a long position. And then I mentioned basically around 1 to 2 days after that, that I was taking profits out of that long position. So once again, I've already closed a lot of that long position. Most of the long position has been completely closed. I've already taken a lot of profits right around this high right here, which I shared on this channel as it was happening. And in case you're new to all of this, I'm not saying that I sold all of my Bitcoin holdings or anything like that. As of right now, I've simply just once again taken some profits from that short-term long position, just a short-term trade, a short-term leverage trade. And obviously, if you followed along with that trading strategy, entering a long position at around 55,000 to 56,000, give or take, and then closing the long position at around 61 to 62,000, obviously you did very well with that trade if you followed along with what I was sharing here on the channel before it actually happened. And obviously I mentioned in my last video here on the channel that I said just yesterday, sometime soon we're about to see a bit of a slowdown very soon in this bullish relief, possibly a bit of a pullback, and right now we're seeing exactly that as expected. And once again, I've been expecting this because we're basically just repeating history. We're seeing very similar price action to what we saw back here. So once again, we saw that essentially double bottom and then a bullish relief. So some sort of double bottom here, bullish relief, and then a slight pullback in the short term, which is what is playing out right now. And so if history continues to repeat here in the short term in the price of Bitcoin, which so far it's been doing pretty much exactly that, obviously not 100% exactly, but very similar price action right now to what we saw at the bottom of the March 2020 crash. And if this continues to repeat basically what we've seen over the last 1 week or so, then we're likely going to see some sort of bounce over the next 1 to 2 days. So whether it's over the next 1 day or the next 2 days, sometime in the next 1 to 2 days, we're likely going to see another bounce of some sort, and that will likely just form another higher low within this bullish relief that we're seeing at the moment. So once again, we're playing out a bit of a short-term pullback during the bullish relief. We're likely going to find some sort of higher low in the next 1 to 2 days and then see a bit of a bounce again sometime soon, once again simply based on what we saw back here. Because even if we're looking at the RSI, we're seeing very similar action here in the RSI to what we saw last time. Obviously, we did not exactly see the overbought signal this time around in the 4-hour RSI. But with that being said, we have seen that short-term pullback from close to overbought territories in the 4-hour RSI in basically the present day price action here. And as of right now, the 4-hour RSI is sitting at very similar levels to what we also saw back here after that short-term pullback. But once again, this is all currently occurring within this bearish trend here on the slightly larger time frames, like the 2-day time frame. So whether we see that slight bounce that I was just talking about or not, either way, we're still within the bearish trend when we're zooming out, at least for now. And so that's why when it came to that Bitcoin long position strategy, which I shared very transparently here on the channel not that long ago, just back here, that's why I basically opened and closed that trade within around 1 to 2 days. It was a very quick trade, not a trade that I was looking to hold for weeks or months like I have with previous trades, because ultimately during more of a bearish trend, you don't necessarily want to hold a long position for weeks or months because that can be kind of risky during a bearish trend. And if you want to actually trade these moves for yourself in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, personally, I take just about all of my trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is a massive lucky draw happening right now over on Bybit, where you could potentially win some free Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, or up to $100,000 just by trading crypto using the link down below this video. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and as we can see just over the last 1 day or so, we perfectly took out a lot of that liquidity, which was sitting at just above 61,500. And I mentioned in my last video that I'll not be surprised. It's actually quite likely in the short term that the price will see a slight move to the upside just above 61,500 before choosing the next direction. And so obviously we saw pretty much exactly that over the last 1 day, taking out that liquidity just above 61,500. And just after we wiped out those positions, obviously we saw that short-term pullback right here, wiping out some downside liquidity. And so obviously we took out the liquidity all the way down towards around 58,500. But with that being said, we still currently have some more liquidity sitting just above 58,000, basically in between around 58,000 to around 58,250. We have a decent amount of liquidity just in that area, basically just below the current price. And as for liquidity to the upside, we still have a decent level of liquidity at around 62,000 to 62.1k. But with that being said, the liquidity that's just above 58,000 is obviously closer to the current price, so it is quite likely that we could see a move down towards that liquidity once again at around 58 to 58.2k approximately. And so a likely scenario in the short term, not 100% guaranteed of course, but a likely scenario is potentially a slight dip down just to take out that liquidity at just above 58,000. And then potentially after seeing that, we could see a slight little bounce in the short term, basically repeating what we saw back here. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and over the last 1 day, not much has really changed on this weekly time frame right here. So taking a look at the 3-day time frame, as of right now, we're still currently holding just above this 50% retracement level, acting as support, sitting close to 2,500. But if we were to see a confirmed break back below around 2,500, then in that case, we have some major support right down here in between around 2,150 to 2.2k. And we also have the 3-day RSI still very close to oversold territories, so keep that in mind as well. And as for resistance, in case we see any sort of bounce here in the short term, we still have a strong level of resistance at around 2.8k based on previous support and resistance. And we also have more resistance at around 3.2k and more resistance in between 3.9k to 4,000. And it's clear, at least for now on the 3-day time frame, that the trend and momentum is still bearish. Once again, during a bearish trend, we can see the occasional pump back to the upside during the trend. But ultimately, if we're looking at the highs and the lows, at least for now, we're forming lower highs and lower lows, which is what a bearish trend is. And if we're zooming into the short term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, once again, we're still seeing very similar price action at the moment compared to what we saw back here at the bottom of the March 2020 crash. And so obviously, if you watched my last video here on the channel, this slight little pullback here was completely expected. I said very soon we're likely going to see basically a slowdown in this bullish relief right here, possibly with a bit of a pullback in the short term. I said that yesterday, and right now we're seeing exactly that because we're essentially just repeating history. And so once again, if this fractal continues to play out, which at the moment it is still playing out, so it's likely that this will happen sometime over the next 1 or 2 days, we're likely going to basically finish this short-term pullback at some point in the next 1 to 2 days, just in the short term here, and then possibly see another little bounce back to the upside. Nothing too major, but at least just a bit of a bounce forming some sort of higher low is likely what will happen at some point in the next 1 to 2 days, based on what we've seen back here once again. But remember, even if we see another bounce here in the short term, at least as of right now, this bullish relief is still currently occurring within this bearish trend here on the 3-day time frame. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, obviously over the last 1 to 2 days, we've seen a further rejection right here, basically straight back down to this area of support in between around 140 to 144. And if we were to see a confirmed break with daily candle closes back below around 140, then in that case, the next significant area of support to the downside is basically the support for this massive sideways price range right here, based on significant previous support in the price, sitting in between around 120 to 128. And so for as long as we're still holding above that area right there, technically speaking, the overall trend on the daily time frame is basically just a neutral trend, because if we're looking at the highs and the lows in the price, we're not really seeing significant higher highs or lower highs or higher lows or lower lows. We're basically seeing horizontal highs and horizontal lows. So basically a massive sideways consolidation. And as for resistance during this sideways price range, we still have some resistance at around 159 to 162 approximately, more resistance in between 170 to 175, and significant resistance in between 183 to 187. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And now, when it comes to this choppy sideways price action right here, a lot of people are just holding Solana in their cold wallets. For example, this is basically very boring price action to them because the price is basically going nowhere. It's just chopping around sideways. But for the traders out there, this is a gold mine in crypto. When we're seeing choppy sideways price action within a sideways price range, you can make a lot of easy profits in choppy sideways price action just like this if you know what you're doing. And if you want to know how to do that, then check out the video in the bottom left of your screen right now, because that video right there shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action, and the video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.